Lance Corporal Weygant says that we are firing and bringing down UFOs. This is huge. Get in here. This is Cosmic Road, where I discuss UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like. Please subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified of future videos. Comment below and let me know what you think about the story. Join me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, links below, and share these stories on social media when they come out. And I'd love it if you became a channel member to support the channel to help me make the best videos possible. You can see channel membership features below. Lance Corporal Weygant was one of the people referenced in Omega Point's expose of the government firing upon UFOs. He and his co-writer published a very long paper with extensive research going back many years. And part of what they investigated and researched was the apparent attempts by the U.S. government and as part of what looks like a global operation, and this is backed up by Lance Corporal Weygant, to develop weapons to fire at UFOs and to bring them down. And it looks like that is what is going on, and that has been going on for probably quite some time. That is discussed in the famous book, The Day After Roswell, by Colonel Philip J. Corso. He doesn't go into a lot of detail about that. He opens the book with that. That's the hook. We're developing weapons to shoot at UFOs. And then the whole book is taking you through the process of reverse engineering the technology. And at the very end, he wraps it all together, or his co-writer may have wrapped it all together, with saying that, yes, indeed, we are firing at UFOs. And there are various other very credible sources to have indicated this over the years, including Lou Elizondo himself, who I just published a video a few days ago where he was hinting very strongly that we possess the technology to bring these things down. He did not say we were doing it, of course, but I wouldn't expect him to. But he did hint very strongly that we had the ability to do it if we wanted to. Interestingly, the technology that he references is different from the technology that Lieutenant Philip J. Corso references, and both of those are different from the technology that Lance Corporal Weygant references. So I guess that means we are using different methods, or is one right over the other, or are they all wrong? I don't know. But you tell me, let me know in the comments below what you think. But this incident happened in 1997, and it was in Peru. It appears like it was technically the Peruvian military working with the United States that shot this vehicle down. But it was the United States and others that were involved in retrieving it, and as well as the bodies, and it looks like there were living beings captured as well. Here is the Lance Corporal describing finding the craft.
So we got there, I don't know, 6, 7, just when daylight had just started to get light. And well, we found the area really easy because there was a huge gash in the land where something had crashed, and it didn't break anything. You know, I don't know if you've ever been to a crash site where you had trees just broken like in half. Everything was burned, and it was like if you had almost cut like a warm butter with a knife. I mean, it was just, it's like something on fire or had or some kind of energy, like a laser almost had like gutted. I mean, it was really strange. And anyway, I was in the front with Sergeant Allen and Sergeant Atkins. We were up front, and we were point basically. And we were like, I don't know, 10, 20 meters ahead of everyone else. We all had maps and radios and compasses, so we knew, so we wouldn't get lost. And basically, we were the first ones to see the object. And basically what happened is we didn't go straight up the hill, because basically this thing went up the hill and then off into the side of the ravine or the ridge. This is about a 200-foot ridge at least. Solid granite. I mean, it's rock. I don't know if it's granite. It was buried in the side of the cliff. But anyway, we didn't go straight up. We went on to the left and walked up to the top of the ridge. And that's when we saw the craft. This is a huge ship, and you know, I used to be into sci-fi movies when I was a kid, but this is nothing like I'd ever seen. And when I first saw it, you know, I was scared. It scared the heck out of me. You know, I didn't know what to do, and it was just it was really confusing. So we all climbed down, and it was buried for about a 45-degree angle into the side of the side of the cliff there, the ridge. And I mean, this is a steep cliff. I mean, it's straight up and down, and it was dripping this syrup-like syrup viscosity, this liquid. It was everywhere, all down everywhere when we went down there, because there was plants and everything. And it was weird. It was a purplish green color, and it was a greenish purple, and it kind of like fluctuated. Like you couldn't really, when you'd look at it one time, then you look at it again, and it would it's almost like it. I don't know if it was like alive and it was just changing. But every time you looked at it, you saw a different shade of greenish purple. It was strange. There was one light on it that slowly went around, and the machine, I could hear it. I guess because it was still functioning, and it had like a hum to it, like a really bass, like say if you unplugged an amp from a guitar, that kind of it was really it was really deep, and it kind of fluctuated, and then finally it just cut off. And everything just seemed to stop, except the colors and the shades, and it was still that way. When I was looking at the craft, it was buried, so I could see the back of it, and there were these large vents. Well, they look like vents, sort of like a fish gill on the back. I couldn't see around the other side, and I'm assuming it was the same way on the other side. That looked like, I don't know, that could have been used for propulsion. I'm not sure. Again, this liquid that had come out of the ship it got on my camis, and it discolored them and ate them almost like acid. And then it ate some of the skin off, the hair off my arms, and and I didn't know that until later on. But basically, when I was down there with the ship, there was 3 holes, and I guess I'd assume that they were hatches, but there's no way to tell. They were not flush with the body, the main body of the craft. There, I don't know, a few inches below. I knew there was one on top because you could slightly see it. I don't know about the other side, but there was another hatch, the same width and diameter or whatever of the top hatch, and it was kind of crooked to the side, and it was half open. And I didn't see any lights or anything coming out of it, but I felt this presence that it's real strange. I guess it was almost like, I think I told Leslie this, I thought the creatures they conned me, and it was like weird, and I think they were trying to communicate with me, like, I guess telepathically. It's really weird, and I don't believe in any of that stuff, but anyway, I could hear, like, and it was terrible because it kept going, and then it still comes and goes. It's like basically sitting in your car and turning on like an AM station that's not, it's just white noise, and it's turning it up really high. And that's what I heard when I first got in there. This is pretty crude 2-dimensional drawing, but this is jungle here, and this was the craft, and it was embedded in the rock like this. And I'm not sure if this tapered off or how it went, but these right here are the hatches. These 2 objects here. This one was the one that was half open, and you could see into it, but I mean, it was just black. It was like looking into a closet. 10 meters in width and about 20 meters in length. I'm just not sure. That's just an estimate from what I remember.
The interview is about half an hour long, but it's well worth watching in its entirety because he goes into a lot of really good detail. You really have to crank up the volume on that. I've increased the volume so you can hear him better, but even volume cranked up, it's very worthwhile. But to summarize, he goes into the UFO, actually interacts physically with one of the occupants of the UFO, and he describes what appears to be a gray alien. He doesn't call it a gray, but he does offer a description of it. He says it has 4 fingers, which I presume to mean 3 fingers and a thumb, because he was differentiating it from human fingers. Has big black eyes, a big head. There's various species of being that have a general look to them, and some of them look very much like the Greys, but they are not the Greys. And there are different varieties of Greys, so, who knows what precise species this was. Anyway, it was telepathically communicating with him and asking for help and making him feel more at ease with the situation. However, help was not to be found because he was immediately arrested by the United States Air Force, which descended on the scene. Apparently, he and his people had, he was a Marine and he had been sent to check on a possibly friendly aircraft that had crashed. And but that was apparently the wrong thing to do because they were not part of the official crash retrieval team, and he didn't know anything about this stuff. However, he has some thoughts because he's seen some behavior from the military, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But so he was immediately arrested by the Air Force that descended on the scene and took control of the site. He was arrested and brought back to a base that was a multinational base. He was seeing Chinese people, Americans, the Department of Defense was there, as well as the Air Force. It was a big operation. He says it was very fancy, a very big, robust operation. Now getting back to the point about the government shooting down this particular UFO, working apparently with the Peruvians, because this is obviously a huge issue if we are at war with aliens. Let's spend a minute letting him describe what he thinks about that.
It was like supernatural. It was no debris that I saw, but there were big gashes in the rear of the aircraft, and what it looked like is that it had been hit with maybe a surface-to-air missile. There were a couple Hawk batteries, and that's a homing all the way killer. That's a low to medium surface-to-air anti-aircraft missile. And basically, it doesn't have to hit the target in order to destroy the target. What it does is it gets in proximity of it, and it has a high explosive fragmentation warhead, and it basically explodes like a big shotgun in the vicinity of the targeted area, and by fragmentation, it's supposed to destroy the target or damage it so it won't be able to continue its mission. So I think we shot it down. This is what I think happened: is we shot it down. The Peruvians shot it down. The other guys knew it was flying. I knew that these aircraft were flying because I had been in the command center there at the radar installation, and I heard a couple women there in the Air Force talking about aircraft flying in and out of the atmosphere at Mach 10 plus. So these aircraft are flying around there. They're re-entering the atmosphere and whatever. And I believe that the higher ups knew it was flying in the area.
He goes into more detail in the interview. And I recommend checking that out. But he is very firm in his belief that we fired upon the UFO, working with the Peruvian military, and brought it down. And then we already had a base in place that was doing this stuff, an Area 51 satellite, if you will, or whatever it was. And they descended on the site and retrieved the craft and the beings. And, he was arrested and threatened. His family was threatened. He was shouted at and, just really shaken down and threatened. They were going to take him in a helicopter and throw him in the jungle. And he would never be seen again. And they threatened his family. Anyway, it was an ordeal. And but eventually, I guess they released him, and he was not suitably cowed because he has come out now and is talking about this. He appears to be very genuine, and he is somebody that Omega Point and his partner referenced in their paper, and even was discussed briefly in the interview with Richard Dolan. Since I've reviewed the paper, I have not finished it. It's very long, but it seems very solid. It looks like their research is very solid, and very serious people like Richard Dolan are taking it seriously. So I think the information in that paper is credible, and this account is generally believed to be credible. So if that's true, we are at war with aliens. Again, this is not an isolated case. There are many such cases. This whole thing does not sit right with me. It does, however, answer one of the main questions, why the government has been keeping this stuff secret for so long. How can they tell us that not only are there aliens, but we are at war with them? The only upside I can think of is that if we have been doing it for as long as we've been collecting crash retrievals, since at least Roswell, if not much earlier, then it's very likely that we had help developing these weapons. Colonel Corso, in his book The Day After Roswell, talks about how we reverse engineered certain technology from the ETs. However, if we shot down the craft at Roswell, then maybe we did not need that technology. So, but that would have been orchestrated and conducted by the control group, which would have existed at that time. And it's important to remember that the Men in Black existed at the time of Roswell. They descended on Roswell and hushed people up very violently using the same methods they employ today. The same methods the Air Force employed against Lance Corporal Weygant, threatening him and his family. And he talks in this interview about how they don't just threaten, they have the ability to do that, and they have carried out on their threats before. So again, if his account is to be believed, really hats off to him for having the cojones to come out and give this information to us. That must have really taken some guts, since he knows what they are capable of. But yeah, so the Men in Black existed at the time of Roswell, which means the control group existed at the time of Roswell. The control group would be the ones shooting at the UFOs and organizing this whole affair. The breakaway group, the Area 51 guys, obviously Area 51 did not exist at the time of Roswell, although it was called into being shortly thereafter. But yeah, so the control group existed then, and if the Men in Black existed then and the control group existed then, it's not a stretch to think that maybe they have been waging this war since then. My only consolation is that if we did have this technology at the time of Roswell, if not before, then it is likely that other beings helped us develop that technology. Did Colonel Corso know about any of this? Unlikely. He was with the Army, and that seems to have, once the Air Force became a distinct thing, this seems to have been largely an Air Force project working with the Department of Defense and also the Department of Energy. Those seem to be three of the main players involved. Obviously, the DoD is going to be involved in all of that stuff. So the Air Force and the Department of Energy specifically are important entities in all of this, as well as important government contractors like Lockheed Martin and Boeing. So yeah, I don't think Colonel Corso knew about any of this. I think that he was pursuing it with the Army independently. He probably had some whispers and some ideas that some stuff was going on, absolutely. But I don't think he was in on the program. He wasn't read into the control group, their agenda. That's my take on it. What's your take on it? All this is very scary, very sobering stuff. So I would love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Please drop me your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Smash that subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. Join me on Facebook and Twitter, links below. And please become a channel member to support the channel and help me make the best quality videos I know how. There are 2 tiers. Tier 2 receives exclusive videos. You can also simply leave a tip in the tip jar with the super thanks feature below. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road.